Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode, the last episode of 2020 of Learn with Jason. Today, we have a very special guest, Scott Tolinski. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, doing good. Ready for the holidays. Just getting all my stuff done, and that's
Yeah.
really it. Yeah.
I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm also very thrilled that we've made it to the end of 2020. We're about to go on a holiday
Thank God.
break. I'm done after this. I'm not coming back until January 4th.
Nice. Yeah, we recorded our podcast up until like mid-January, so we're good for that. But I personally
Nice.
have like 16 videos to edit still for my latest series. So I'm just like, oh God, I don't even know when I want to do that. My deadline is January 1st, so I don't know. Take my time with it.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, cool. So for those of us who aren't familiar with your work, do you want to give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, I am the creator of Level Up Tutorials. That's at Level Up Tutorials on YouTube or even on Twitch or at leveluptutorials.com. I've been creating video tutorials for the web since 2012 and have been doing so at a pretty high pace for a long time. So it's sort of natural for me now that I've moved into doing premium courses that I'm doing almost like a magazine subscription type of deal where each month, if you subscribe, you get access to a new tutorial series on something new. The most recent ones being, well, the one I'm working on right now is on Snowpack, as well as like ECMAScript modules.
Oh, nice.
The last one before that was on Dino, and then the one before that was on animating Svelte, which is why we're here today.
That ES module stuff is super exciting. I know that Chris Biscardi's in chat. He's been doing a lot of work in that space.
Oh, yeah.
And it really just feels like if you want to use that Wayne Gretzky saying, like, you skate where the puck is going. I feel like ES modules is where it's going, right?
Dude, it is. So this might be a little bit of an exclusive here. We're rewriting our stack pretty heavily. We're keeping our UI really the same, but I've switched up a lot of aspects of it. Like the API is going from Apollo to Mercurius. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't used that.
Fastify. It's very good. It's like no optimizations. It's super fast. And then our API build system is now in ES build, which not only uses ESM, but it's written in Go, so it's very fast. And then our front end is now entirely dev within Snowpack. So we just got like upgraded to be like 50 millisecond saves for everything. And I almost don't know what to do with it. I'm used to waiting like, a minute in between save, okay, wait, okay, whatever. And then now it's just like, oh wow, this is crazy fast. And I'm actually building this like sort of stack on it that I'm calling Avalanche, that includes a database, it includes a UI, includes an API, and like a one-click deal. And it includes a lot of emoji in the CLI. So that's always great.
That is always great. We got a question in the chat. Someone says it sounds like your microphone is maybe set to the one that's not your good mic.
Scarlet.
So the microphone. Oh yes.
Oh, look at it
go. Yes, thank you for whoever mentioned that. The microphone you were just hearing was my DSLR's microphone, or my mirrorless camera microphone. It's not even like my MacBook microphone, which would have at least been decent.
I'm always like, I'm not here to judge, right?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe he likes that reverb sound. I don't know.
Oh man, I don't know why in the world would it have defaulted to the cameras? I've never used that. I feel like with OS X or Mac OS and like the audio sources, it just chooses. It just every time I open my computer, it's just like, I don't know, we'll roll the dice today. It's hooked up to a random number generator.
Especially with like Zoom is really bad at this, where I feel like Zoom will always pick the microphone that I've literally never used.
Yeah.
It's like, I heard that you had a virtual microphone in Chrome. I'm going to try that one today. I'm like, that's literally not a thing. That's never existed. Make it up.
Yeah, I totally get that, because specifically, like, the only thing I use Zoom for is syntax. We use Zoom for syntax every week, and it should always be this microphone. So yeah, that's just how it is.
Oh man. Yeah, they're asking if you can boost your gain just a tad. I did not
Boost my gain. I don't think I'm gaining here.
Here we go. This is now an audio tweaking session.
Yeah, I think if we boost,
Oh,
you
no,
need
that's
to boost your speakers because no,
everybody
this is what
turn
I
up right
record.
now.
Yeah. I literally never touch this.
No,
stuff.
you're great. This is I'm getting the levels are good now, so I think let's just roll. So
Yeah.
okay, so what we want to talk about today is not Scott's microphone settings. It's animation. You mentioned you've made a course on this. We're gonna share a direct link to that a little bit later on, but for now, so Svelte is something that I've been hearing more and more buzz about, right? I think it sounds really nice because it's like I've heard it called the disappearing framework. I'm not sure if that's the official tagline or if that's just something somebody said. But what I think is interesting about it is that when you write Svelte, what ends up in the browser is not like a bunch of Svelte boilerplate code. It's just like HTML, unless you're actually using some kind of JavaScript effects, in which case you get a kind of tiny bundle.
Yeah, that's correct.
And now Svelte is also those really beautiful New York Times like data visualizations and stuff. Svelte is kind of the engine underneath that, right? Like all those beautiful animations.
As far as I know Rich does a lot of stuff there, but I'm not too privy to how that stuff's built. But I know that a lot of people are using it specifically for that, as well as the New York Times.
Yeah. And so we did a show with Rich. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. But we kind of, that was like the high level view. It's part of the Let's Learn series where we just kind of touch on everything. And so what I thought would be really fun today is to dig a little deeper into the animation, especially, you've got the course on it, so you can kind of show us some of the ropes. And then if we get interested, we can always go a little bit deeper and dive into your course on Level Up Tuts. So how, what do you find yourself practically using Svelte animations for? Is it something that's found its way into your day-to-day work at all?
Me personally, I find animations creep into every bit of my day-to-day work. If you go to leveluptutorials.com, even though the site's built in React, there's a big emphasis on the animations. Overall, we were talking briefly before the show started about After Effects was mentioned, and I told you that After Effects was actually where I saw my career going. I went to school for media production. I had a job as a video editor and motion graphics artist, and I really wanted to do commercial visuals, 3D, but primarily motion graphics for TV commercials. That was where I wanted to be. And so because of that, I've always thought very animated in terms of my user interfaces. Back in the day when Flash was just everywhere, pervasive, and these crazy high-tech Flash animations or whatever, I always really liked that, even though it had this certain cheeseball look to it. There's something in me that's oh man, I really loved when animations were a thing on the web. So that when we got really nice CSS transitions, and I remember getting the transition property in CSS and just being like, this is the best thing ever. And then
Same.
So now that I can control animations on mount and unmount of actual DOM structures, I can do things like flip animations. For those of you who don't know, flip animations, what is it? First, inverse.
First, last.
First, last, inverse, play.
Yeah.
So you find the first position, the last position, you reverse the animation, and then you play it back. So that way it has all of the positions it needs to know to do the animation performantly. But it's easy now, or at least it can be easy using the right tools in any framework, really, whether that is React or Svelte or whatever. So that to me, it's always part of the process is coming up how to animate something. I almost never just straight up toggle something and have it disappear. It's an accordion, it's a fade out, it's this or that. And that's something that I really can't live without in my user interfaces when I'm writing the code.
Yeah, I've definitely found that the better I get at animations, the more I feel weird when I don't take the time to put them in. It's something that, like, you know, over this last year, one of the things that I've been getting a lot of is, for example, like, I've had a bunch of people come on and teach green sock. And so I've been learning a lot of things about like the green sock tweening and timelines. And now that I know how that stuff works, I'm like, I could just kind of give this a little bit of life. What if I did give this some, you know, a nice like easing instead of a straight like linear transition? And now that I can do that, now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can go back now. I think I have to do this forever now.
Yeah. And once I got into like physics-based animation stuff like React Spring or Framer Motion, like that stuff to me is just so good. I ended up writing like a host of, it's like an internal plugin, as in like this is an open sourced. We don't just because it's like a folder in my project that I've aliased. I like do that sometimes where I'll like create a folder and then I'll alias it to just be animations. And that way it sort of feels like an external module, but it's really just a handful of components. So I've like made just this, I should really open source this. In React specifically, I've made all these like component helpers for level up tutorials, whether that is a straight up just a fade in wrapper that you wrap around something and you pass it a Boolean, and that mounts, it unmounts, takes care of the flying in, the flying out, just really basic stuff. I even made like I have a YouTube video on this, actually, a wrapper around React router that just adds a nice little animation to every single route, just like painless. So instead of using routes, you use animated routes. That's it. And then it just works, right? Like, so for me, making the animations, like, no, like I don't need to think to put them in. Besides the fact that you want to think about what they're doing for your users, but like making it that easy, making it easy on yourself to not have to like really try to plan out every tween or everything every single time has made it super easy for me.
Absolutely.
And to bring it back to Svelte, that's one of the reasons why I like Svelte in their animation realm. As you'll see in a little bit, it's like, it's very easy to just drop something on and just not even think about it. You only just say, oh, okay, this is a fade thing. All right, it's fade thing. That's it. You know, no wrappers, nothing else, you know, nothing fancy.
Excellent. Yeah. So so with that, I think it's probably that's a good time any to switch over and start looking at this in pairing mode so that we can start doing stuff. So a couple little pieces of housekeeping. Make sure you go and follow Scott on Twitter if you're not already. We're going to be talking about Svelte, and so that's going to be the Svelte website. Remember, this show and all episodes of Learn with Jason are live captioned. We've got Jordan helping us out today. You can find those at lwj.dev/live, and you'll be able to watch the show and see the captions right below. Those captions are made possible through generous sponsorships by Netlify, Hasura, Fauna, and Auth0, all of whom kick in. They make the show more accessible to more people, which means a whole lot to me. So thank you all very much for being part of that. And as Scott said, he runs Level Up tutorials, so make sure you head over there and check that out. I saw, thank you, Nate, for the sub, and Jimena, you mentioned the hat. This hat is a gift from Lindsay Levine, who came on and taught me Minecraft last week. I'm so excited about this. This is one of a kind Learn with Jason merch here. So thank you very, very much, Lindsay. She is wonderful. She's also on my team at Netlify working on the next on Netlify plugin. Okay, so I'm ready here. I created, before we started, I just ran npx dgit to get the Svelte template and created a folder called Svelte animation. So I have this folder. It has just the defaults in it. This is what comes in this folder, and I'm ready to roll. What should we do first?
We should first, let's go ahead and throw out, like, can you make maybe like let's just do like a straight up box, just like a 100 by 100 box.
Okay, so let's do this. We'll do animation in Svelte, and we don't really need a name, but we can let's get this out of here. So we'll do a div. We'll give it a class of box. I don't need any special names for things, right? I can just...
Yeah, nothing fancy. And the coolest, I mean, one of my favorite things about Svelte is that all the styles in this component are scoped. So like...
Love that.
Yeah, granted, this is the app component, but It's really nice for those of you who haven't used it before. The default scoping for everything is really how I would love to have CSS be written in general. Like I would love to just pop a little style tag beneath all of my React component in like a single file. Just like pop a little style tag down there and have it be scoped to that file. That would be very nice for me.
Oh no, what have I done? Rollup
no.
command not found. Oh, I don't think I did an npm install.
Oh yeah.
Probably need to do that. Okay.
I started aliasing a lot of my stuff so that it just runs npm install before I do anything. Just because I forget that so many times.
Every time.
How's this broken?
Okay, let's get over here. We've got our animation in Svelte. So here's our box that we made.
All right, let's go throw a button under that bad boy too, just so we can call some events or something.
Okay. Where did my? Oh, it reordered it. So it put my.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I don't know if I actually have a Svelte. I do. I have some kind of opinionated Svelte thing in here.
Cool. All right. Well, you can just do stuff. All right. So I think for like a good basic example would be to like have this button mount and unmount on click of button. So to do that, we would just head up to your script tag.
I'm going to collapse this so we can see what's going on.
Yeah. So head up to your script tag. Go ahead and just create a let. You don't need to export it because it's not going to be a prop. We can just say let is active or something.
Okay.
And you can have it be true by default, whatever. And now in our main HTML, you can, the cool thing about Svelte is that it uses template tags, unlike it's like Angular or anything like that, or Vue, Mustache, any of those things. So you can, before the box, do a pound if inside of brackets. So like brackets.
Like these kinds of brackets?
Curly boys, if, and then is active after a space. Yeah. And then to close that, you'll need a closing tag that's also is the curly brackets and then /if.
Like this?
Yep. So that closes that. All right. Cool. So on the button, let's just get this going, mounting and unmounting. On the button, we can do an on : click. So we have this event where you could say on : and then literally any JavaScript event. So
nice. Okay.
Nothing super fancy there. It's just the JavaScript event. And that's one thing I like about Svelte. As much as like there is some like interesting syntax stuff, it still keeps it really close to the DOM and really close to JavaScript. Okay, so we have on click. It could just be equal to brackets. And inside of here, if you wanted to, we could do this as we could do this as a function, or you could just do an inline arrow function in here. So we
could just do something like this.
Yep.
And then do we just like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So let me close that up so we can see the whole thing. So here's our whole app. We've got, and now I don't need this anymore, right? So I can just get rid of this? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. As long as the component's not using it somewhere. Yeah.
As far as I know, it's not. So
I don't think it is.
Let's see what happens. So now this is, its default is active. So when I click this button, it should hide our box, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's doing that, and we can make that a little more obvious as well by doing something like, let's see if I can do this. Do a curly boy, and we'll do an if is active. We can say hide box.
Yeah.
And then is it like else like this, or do I need a pound or?
That's actually a good question. I don't use a lot of else for some reason. I think it is. It's good. I always head to the API here.
That doesn't seem right.
Like I never think about else tags. Oh, I always think about else. This is a weird one. This is why it escaped me. It's : else.
:
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. It's doing its thing. So we are basically going to change the text now. So if it's active, we'll hide it. If it's not active, we'll show it. So hide box. Oh, show box.
Yeah. Beauty.
Excellent. Look at it go.
Look at it go. Cool. So let's get to the easy part, which is the animation. We can head up to the top of your script
tag,
and import.
Holy buckets! Did that just work?
It sure did work. I'm always blown away by how quick it is to get up and running. Like I ran npxd git, npm install, and we were kind of like, Scott looked up the syntax for if else, and that was like that's it, right? Like this all feels very natural JavaScript. We set a variable, we use a click event, we write some regular old logic. This feels very approachable. I don't feel like I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah. And especially with like the setting of variables and stuff, you don't have to worry about any sort of special syntax to get the correct previous value from the state to manipulate it to do whatever, right? It's just, here's a variable, we're setting the variable, the UI updates. So, okay. So we want to import a named package from Svelte transition, which is going to be, we'll do fade. Fade is an easy one.
And it's
fade
like
from Svelte /transition.
Okay.
And then on the box, the box. On the box, we want to say transition.
Just like straight up?
Yeah, just straight up, colon. So we're declaring there's going to be a transition on this box.
Okay.
And then to say what transition, we just say fade. Give it a save, give it a rip. Hey, there we go. Now, in addition to fade, there is blur, slide, scale, and fly, and those all come out of the box. So that's
funny.
like
you said blur?
Yeah, blur. Yeah.
I don't even know what that one would be. Wow.
Blur. Yeah.
Okay. This is I love it when stuff just works. Like that's so nice.
Great
to see that sort of stuff right out of the box. There's a question. Can you use more than one at once?
You can't use more than one of these at once, but many of them have lots of parameters. So like, let's say you wanted to do actually, I take that back. You can use more than one of them at once, but not on the in and the out. As in you can have a fly on the in and a fade on the out. You can't do a fly and a fade. That said, within any of them, you can adjust many of the properties as parameters to them. So let's go ahead and let's give a fly a rib. And we can import fly and just change that to fly. And you'll see what I'm talking about really soon here. You'll see it does nothing but fade it out, right?
Okay.
Which you think like, what gives, right? This is a fly. So what we need to do is we need to head to our component. And we need to say is equal to after the fly. And then double brackets. So we're getting into a JavaScript object.
Got it.
And then we can set any of our properties for essentially the out state of this thing. Because it's kind of assuming here that we want the in state to be its natural position.
Gotcha.
Granted, there's custom animations that you can write that are extremely easy too. So like if this is like not what you're looking for, there's more to it. So we could say, let's say like Y100. And Svelte does the really nice thing of giving you the ability to use X and Y for your coordinates rather than having to translate 3D and have to remember that stuff.
Oh, look at it go.
Look at it go, right?
That is beautiful. And so then, if we wanted to do something like, let's have it go off screen, we'll go to -100. Whew, there it goes.
Do whatever you want.
Out of there.
Yeah.
I love this.
There's even a draw for drawing SVGs, but to be honest, I haven't used
really.
Yeah, it's like, man, this is so nice. I love this stuff. And keep in mind, this is happening on mount and unmount. And if you wanted to do CSS transitions the normal way, you can do CSS transitions too. I mean, so just by changing a class, right? So this gives you the added benefit of just being able to control that mounting and unmounting. And to me, the unmounting aspect of it is something that React doesn't do well. And I like how easy it is to unmount a component and have that thing animate without any sort of wrapper.
Well, and that's kind of one of the standing kind of complaints that you'll see about React, especially when you get into heavy animation, is that you don't really get to do animation in React. you have to escape React using refs to do animation. Yeah. And like, while that's fine, it feels like something that's bolted on. Whereas this is very obviously a piece of how this was designed. It's, you can tell that Svelte was created with animation as kind of a first class consideration. Totally. Which is, when you start weighing what you're going to choose for a project, that should factor in, like not everything is the right tool for the job. And if you are planning on doing something super animation heavy, it probably makes sense to look at something other than React, because React is going to force you to like really put a lot of tools in place to get animations to work. Whereas something like this, you just kind of get to import one thing and it works.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I know. It will fly, okay, sure, whatever. And like, so I was saying that one of the cooler parts is too, is if you need custom animations, man, the options are there for that as well, and like are just as easy almost. Do you want to give something like that a whirl?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give something like that a whirl.
Yeah.
And Mark is putting some things in the chat as well for us to look at that are.
Oh, nice.
Let's drop a few of these and take a look. This is a draw animation. So.
Oh yeah. So this is using
there it is. There's the SVG being drawn. And that's super slick, right? Like that is.
It's pro. Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that I would have thought I needed to get green sock or something to make this sort of thing work. And I know, like, for you SVG like pros out there, I know that you don't need green sock for that. Like, please don't email me.
You can adjust the dotted line and whatever. Yeah.
But it's super cool that this is an option, that it's just kind of like built right in, and we can see that. Let's see. So we imported draw. We have our drawing here, and to draw it, we say oh my God, draw duration 1 second. Unbelievable. That's wonderful. Like, that's so nice. I love it. So, okay. So I'm feeling this. This is great. So we were going to try something custom. Here's our Svelte app. I'm ready for something custom.
Okay, cool. So custom, we can head to the JavaScript and we can just create a function.
Okay.
And this is your normal function, normal type of function. Only this function, let's see, the parameters will be, it'll have one parameter. The first parameter will be, you can name this anything you want. You could call it JSON, you could call it anything. Yeah. Perfect. Oh my God.
Got it.
Okay. So the first one is going to be the node itself, which we're not even going to use in this example.
Okay.
And then we can have a comma, and then we get some parameters that get passed into the animation.
Okay.
So these params, we can destructure these, and I think the only one we'll need is the, actually, never mind. We won't even need these parameters for what we're doing. We won't need any parameters. Just
nothing.
Just get rid of them all. Yeah, cool. So from this, we're going to return an object, and this object is going to have a CSS property.
Okay.
This CSS property is going to be a function. An arrow. You can do an arrow function with one parameter of t for time.
Okay.
Okay. And let's just go ahead and open that thing up. Maybe this might even be fun for the audiences to maybe throw a console log on that t so we can see what that t is doing before we do anything with it.
Okay. Works for me.
Cool. And let's go ahead now on your box down there where we had transition fly. You could just change that fly to be anything I want.
Oh, so we would need to add code. Is that right?
That is slick. So effectively then, if to kind of work this back to what's happening under the hood, each of these transitions that I'm importing is a function that gets a node and parameters.
Yep.
And then
those parameters are whatever the things that you passed in there, whether it's the X, the Y, the delay, the duration, those types of things.
And so if I, like with my fly that was happening, then I would have been able to pull out like the X.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And also that makes this even more approachable to me because now I know what's happening. And so we're getting this T for time. And so when I run this, nothing's going to happen, but we should get a bunch of console logs. So let's give it a shot. Okay. Okay, so we get...
see. What do I see?
Here's a bunch of console logs. Let me make that a little bit bigger so it's legible. And yeah, so we start at 1, and then it looks like it's firing a few times, like 20, 30, is it 30 frames a second probably?
To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably rolling like on request animation frame or something like that. But this gives us a decent number of steps. So I assume each one of these is going to be our step toward whatever our next value is.
Yeah. The best part about getting, so on transition out, it goes from 1 to 0. And on transition in, it goes from 0 to 1. Meaning that in our CSS function, if we were, let's say, to return, if we were to return it's not an object, it's an interpolated, it's a string with backticks. So that way we can use the T value. And we could do something like opacity is equal to, bracket T.
Oh, so we would need to add code.
And now I'm just returning actual CSS, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And so because of that, that means we now have a fade animation. You've just implemented fade. And with that T value, you could have it do anything you wanted to. You could have it scale at a certain scale. You could have it, you could have it literally do anything you want as long as you have that value. You could invert that value, that 0 to 1, and have it do something fun there.
Whoop.
But it gives you full control. It's amazing.
This is really slick. And so this also lets us do something like if we wanted to, I don't know, we could do a translate X probably, because if I don't use this, the translate 3D stuff, Sarah Drasner gives me bad performance reviews. So
wait,
so,
if you use what?
Because we need to use the GPU. We can't just animate like the left or right? Because she'll yell at me.
But you also can't use translate X either, because that doesn't use the GPU.
Oh, see, this is me getting a bad form. I don't know.
Unless, of course, you have a translate Z of nothing. But yeah.
Wait, so is it translate? And then you get the 3 values?
Yeah. Or translate 3D is the one you want.
Translate 3D. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then it's going to be X, Y, Z. So we can do times.
Yeah.
I don't know, negative 100. So that'll start us. No, we would need to do it. Hold on. So if we wanted to go out, we would want to start with nothing. And then, right? So we would do like...
If you wanted to go... Wait. If you wanted to zoom when you click the thing, you're right here. Because it's going to be 0 at its resting point. Right?
Oh, you're right.
It's going to be 1. It's going to be 1. That's actually a good point. Let's just give it a try. This is one of those ones.
Wait, I broke this.
Because that one doesn't have any pixels after it. We need some pics. There we go.
Okay, so yeah. So what I think we need to do is like a negative 100 minus this. And what that should do is it should start us at where we want it to start from and then progressively subtract more as this number gets bigger.
I think you're right. Yeah. I always have to like do all this math in my head when I'm doing it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Look at it go.
Oh yeah, look at it go.
I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not, for a little bit of mental math and me not remembering how CSS works. I feel
it's perfect because you made it. And that's the way I look at all my stuff.
I love it. It's perfect because you made it. I need a sound clip of that. That's going to be on my daily affirmations.
Yeah, right. And another cool thing here, I know you mentioned like easing curves. Svelte also has a substantial amount of easing curves baked in. That's actually one of the coolest parts about Svelte is because you don't have to worry about this stuff bloating the library. They can just add stuff like, oh, here's all of the easing curves you want. You can just import them, from
love it.
Svelte/easing. Okay, well, it's not going to get bundled into the library, so just go for it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's perfect. So if I wanted to do that, like if I want to grab some easing, is it in transition or is it like another subfolder?
It's Svelte/easing.
Okay. And so let's go with an easy one. Like there's probably a bounce, right?
I think there's a bounce, but there might be bounce in, bounce out, bounce in, out. I think those are the...
Let's try that. It's going to be super weird.
There's bounce in, bounce out, bounce in, out.
Okay, so let's get bounce in out. And instead of doing this math,
No, you can leave the math.
I can leave my math.
We leave the math. So what we do is on the in our custom animation where we have the return, the one property is going to be CSS. The other property is going to be, I believe it's just going to be easing. It's just going to be easing.
And do I just leave this?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Let's try it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do this with something less terrible because I feel like part of the problem here is that we're doing something that's only like sort of functional.
Yeah.
So let's do this instead. We'll do our scale. Screwed that up. Okay, so
you just need T. Oh, that. So that doesn't.
yeah,
look
so
like
it happens really fast. So what if I want to slow it down a little bit?
You can add a delay here as well, or a duration. So you could say duration.
Let's go slow.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see what just happened there where it's doing that bounce? So let me change this to just bounce out. I think that'll look
the
nicer.
bouncing out definitely is.
Boop.
It's like a basketball. Boop, 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 boop.
I love that.
Boop, boop, boop.
Oh, that's great. And then if we want to change this to like what's your favorite ease?
Oh, what is my favorite ease? I almost always end up using like a quint, a quart, something in there.
Okay, so let's do a quint out.
Yeah.
Oh, and so you get that kind of smooth, it like eases on the way out. These are easing. If you've never used easing before, easing is kind of, there's a lot going on with it. It's basically math, like drawing a graph. And you can see it. My favorite way to look at it is cubic Bezier, I think it's .com. Here it is. So this is what an ease looks like. So we're going from 0 to 1, right? And then if we drag these around, the ease, like the numbers change. So this would be like a whoop, whoop, right? So that's kind of an ease in out kind of thing. Or I guess this would be more of an ease in out where it would start slow and then go fast and then slow down on the way out.
Correct. Yeah.
This, I don't know what this would be. This would be like a smash in out.
That would be,
like,
no, if you had it down like that, it would be an ease. Oh, no, wait. Time. I don't know anymore. But it's like the ease is like an ease in is it's slower at the start. An ease out is slower at the out. Ease in out, slower at the in out. And the functions there, the Bezier functions, just augment the character of it ever so slightly. And I almost would never use in any of my animations a default ease in out. I would almost always use something at least a little fancy, with it probably nothing like bounce crazy unless it needs that kind of treatment. But I would almost always use a quad, a quint, something like that, just to give it a little bit more character than just the straight up standard ease, or heaven forbid a non-eased linear animation. No, thank you.
But yeah, so you can, as you can see, like as I'm pulling these around, this pink one is kind of changing with whatever happens here, and so you can get pretty weird with these.
Interrupt here. I have a link to share you as well. Here is a very similar interface written in Svelte using Svelte easings.
Excellent. I have to. I'm between two computers, so we have to do it this way. But examples easing. Okay, and then if I look at the output, oh, look at all these. That's really nice.
So this allows you to see all of them as they are in Svelte, even though they are the same. They're standardized pretty much. So,
that's really nice. Yeah, but yeah, these are really slick, right? Like this is really nice because also you can go through and look at these and decide, what do you want to do. So here's bounce. This is what we were doing before. Elastic is actually kind of fun, so let's throw that in here. We'll go elastic out probably. Yeah, look at that thing go. Right? That's fun.
Yeah,
And it just kind of snaps. And it gets a little bit bigger than its containing space, which is fun. It gives it kind of a sense of presence. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I
All
find
right.
this stuff to be so much fun. It is. There's something just, I don't know, a little less technical and a little bit more playful. Getting to, toss some stuff on these things so easily and see the results happen this quickly. And I love this stuff.
Same. This is where I think, when you start to see the web feel alive, when the animations are not just kind of stiff robotic, but like point A to point B, but you start to see like, oh, it wiggled a little bit, or it kind of calmed down, or it had like we had Jay Tompkins on last week, and we looked at how do we like randomize blinking a little bit so that it doesn't feel like a robot that's on a strict timer. And as soon as you start to see those little bits of life, you're like, what else could I do with this? How else could I make this feel alive? And it pulls so much creativity out, I think. Yeah,
there's like recently I added an animation to, we have these like cards. I mean, it's a standard sort of card, but ours kind of look like a credit card. And I was thinking like, they do this little like dip and then increase in size when you hover over them. And I was thinking, ooh, this would be a great place to show a little bit more like depth here. So I added on the dip, I added a 1 pixel border to the bottom right of it, and it looks like a credit card. And then as it does it, there's also a gradient that's transparent over the top that I just fade in and out, and it almost looks like the light's catching it when it increases in size.
That's slick.
And it's just like these little tiny touches are just like, I'm just goofing around on a Sunday night. Oh, this is fun. It doesn't feel like work. And honestly, it's not adding a ton of value to my platform, but it's having a lot of fun.
I don't know about that though, because I feel like the thing that we notice is, I feel like we don't notice it consciously, but we notice that as being that little bit of polish that takes something from being good to great. Like when it's why we like Apple's advertising and Apple products, is they do these tiny little things that we don't really notice, but the gestalt of it is that we see something that altogether feels super cohesive, super considered, and it feels like it's all part of a very well designed experience. Versus if you look at a lot of kind of like discount stuff, when you use it, you're like, this does the thing that I want, but none of this feels like it's there to solve a job, right? Yeah. Like you're not going in for an experience, you're going in for a solution to a very particular problem.
Totally.
And I do think that is, that it makes a difference. It lets you add, brand value, or if you're trying to become a luxury brand, like that's what makes a luxury brand, like all those sorts of things. There's just there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah Totally.
The chat saying their experience with Apple has been all bad. You must have started recently.
Speaking of, like, I've had some major Apple issues as well, but I still keep going back to them. I just got my phone back after like the third time. And luckily, because it's so funny, I had an issue where I had my MacBook Pro. They went to take it fixed because the Apple keyboard and it broke. So I go take it in to get it fixed. And one of the Apple repair reps broke my screen while they were repairing it. And so it was supposed to just be a keyboard change, right? Broke the screen. And here's what they did. They were like, okay, no one can find out I broke this screen. So I'm just going to set this laptop on a shelf somewhere and forget about it. And it was like 3 weeks later and I still hadn't gotten my computer back. And I mean, my whole business is running on this thing. Just like I'm using a 13-inch MacBook Pro from ancient times. And I had to like call them and be like, all right, what is the deal? And they scrambled to find it because they lost it. They were like, we lost our computer. God. We have to find it. They found it. They found the screen broken and then like pieced it together. Luckily, I got 2 sets of AirPods out of it for free. And what else did they give me? Well, the good news is that now anytime I have any problems with any of my Apple stuff, I retell that story and then they look at my account and they're like for instance, I broke my screen. I broke my phone. I told them that story and they're just like, oh, we'll get your phone fixed right away. Like, don't worry about it. It's like, so I almost have like an Apple Pass now for any time that's like an issue.
I love that. Okay,
Yes.
so oh, that's a good tangent. I like that. I feel like that's a really good example of like making lemonade, right? Like,
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Sure. At the time, not so much. Now,
yeah,
fun, a lot
geez.
of fun.
Well, cool. So, all right. So we've covered at this point, just to kind of recap, especially if anybody's joining late. We installed a Svelte project. We defined this button. Our button has a click handler, and when it is clicked, it just toggles the value of this is active. Is active is defined up here. It starts out as true. That's why our button is present. And then when inactive is false, our box doesn't show. So this is pretty standard kind of, we're doing the things that we would do in JavaScript. We've got a value. We're checking if that value is present. If it's true, we're going to show something. If it's not, we're going to hide something. That seems reasonable. But where the magic of Svelte is really coming in is that Svelte has this API where we can pull in transitions and easing, and we can drop these right into our element as a transition attribute. And we're using a custom function here. So we defined our own transition function, and that's letting us modify the CSS, add an easing function, and then we set our duration. And now we have all this animation, and this is the whole file. Like, there's nothing else in this project. This is everything we've written so far. That's some really powerful stuff. Like, that's pretty incredible that we can get that much for that little code.
How powerful do you want to make this thing? Do we want to add some? Do you want to make it to be like a draggable square?
Man, I want to strap this thing to a rocket ship.
Okay, well, let's get ready for something called actions, which are not animation specific, but they're a way to write essentially your own plugins. And this is one of the things that we do in our course to some degree, to a large degree. And so we can go ahead and create another function, and this function.
Sorry, I just realized I could like center this and it would just work.
Oh,
so I'm going to do that so that this all looks nice. Look at that.
That's
professional. Ooh, look at this too. So when we did our easing, that box kind of lightly overlaps our button. Doesn't that look nice? It makes it feel like it's all, it just feels polished.
Yeah. And you could add like a shadow that gets bigger at that time. Yeah. There's a lot.
And we could do all of that like here, right? Like we could just throw it in.
Oh, you bet you could.
Should we do it or let's do actions. Well, if we have extra time, we'll come back. Okay. So I'm going to create a new function.
Function.
And this is just any action.
You can call this, let's call it drag.
Drag.
Just because that's what it's going to be doing.
Okay.
And this function is going to be getting two parameters. Well, let's just give it one for simplicity's sake, and it's just going to be node. And this is going to be the literal DOM node. So browser API DOM node. Nothing crazy about this. And
to kind of clarify why you're saying that, it's a lot of frameworks have like virtual DOM nodes or some kind of proxy to the DOM. So Svelte is giving you direct access to the actual DOM. Is that correct?
Yeah. And in like this instance, to build something that's draggable or whatever, we're working with straight up DOM APIs. We're not touching anything fancy. We're not having to reach into libraries or whatever. In fact, we are going to be reaching into one library, but it's a Svelte specific library, and it's only to create the values that we want out of this thing. So before we even do anything, let's go ahead. We can set two variables. We can just say let x and let y.
X, let y.
And how should we do this? So we'll want to add, we'll want to have functions for mouse down, mouse up, mouse move.
Okay.
So 3 functions: mouse up, mouse down, mouse move.
And do I want to just create 3 functions with those names?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that to keep it.
Okay.
Okay. So now we need a event listener outside. We can do that. You could do the event listener just underneath the let y. So we could say node dot. Sorry,
node dot.
Event listener. We'll do a document one in a minute, but let's do a node.event listener. So this is listening for an event. We'll have it be just a mouse down, which is all lowercase, and we can just have it do the mouse down function. Okay.
Okay. So then we can do one for each, right?
Actually, we don't. We don't need
Oh, okay. All right. I'm getting ahead of myself.
For mouse up and mouse move, we'll want those to be on the window.
Got you. So should I still add them here? Or do we want to add them in the mouse down?
Let's have them be in the mouse down.
Okay.
Yeah, and they'll be window rather than node. So for those of you who don't know, while Jason's typing, you want to have a window event listener for the mouse up and the mouse move, because if your mouse leaves the box that it's on, it won't fire these events as a move or a mouse up. So by calling these on the window, it's listening for any event on the window that's a mouse up or mouse move. Okay, so let's think about what we want to do next here. So when we go mouse down, we want to trigger the mouse move event. I'm trying to think about the order in which we want to do things, because I could just give you all the code, but I kind of make it a little bit fancier. Let's go ahead and import something into our JavaScript.
Import something up here?
Up top. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to want to import, it's called Spring, and it's from Svelte/motion. And what you can think about Spring is it's basically a way to subscribe to values and have the values interpolate between. Like if I have a 1 and I change that value to a 0, it's going to interpolate between those values while giving you so in like a physics-based way.
And so when you say interpolate, like to put a very broad stroke on that, this is similar to how when we call this T function, if we console log it, it doesn't just go 1 to 0. It goes 1, and then we get like 30 frames between 0 and 1 where we get intermediate values.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So let's head down just below our let X and let Y. We can define our coordinates. So we're creating to put some context in for anybody watching, we're creating a draggable thing. So we're basically making a plugin where you can just do a one-liner onto anything you want and have it be draggable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since we get access to the node itself, that allows us to just attach this to any old node. So let's go ahead and do a const, and you could just call this coordinates. I use the word coordinates. You can call this anything. Coordinates is equal to, chords is good. Equal
Mostly
to
because I'm not confident in my spelling.
Yeah, no, another tangent here. I tested into English as a second language in college. They were like, are you sure you're an English speaker? Because my like preparatory things were so poor. I think I got like an 18 on my reading or something on the ACT. It was bad. Okay. So we'll want the first parameter is going to be an object.
Okay.
And the object is going to be the values that we're interpolating, where their initial starting points are going to be at 0 and 0. So we'll have X is equal to 0, or X 0, and then Y 0.
Okay.
And that's all we need here. So that's basically creating the initial coordinates. And what that gives us is the ability to do something like chords.update, almost like a set state function in React, but it has the special added benefit of it giving us those values in between the values.
Gotcha. Okay. And so now when this gets called, we have our node, we set up some initial coordinates, which are basically wherever you are on the screen, I'm assuming, is X and Y.
Yeah.
And then we're setting this mouse down. So if I click on this box, or on the nodes, we haven't attached it yet. When I click on a node, it will fire this mouse down function, which right now doesn't do anything except add our empty mouse up and mouse move.
Well, let's have it do something right now.
Okay.
And then we can finish that mouse down function. So we'll do 2 reassignments. First of which is going to be, we need to get the event from the function. So the event will be the parameter.
Okay.
And the event gives us all sorts of neat animation stuff, one of which is client X and client Y. So we can say X is now equal to event.clientX. And Y is equal to event.clientY. And this is the non-subscribed values. This is just the X and Y. So that way, when we move the mouse, it is getting essentially the initial position when you click mouse down. So these are setting essentially the initial positions.
Gotcha.
So-
Okay, so then this is not where it is. This is just kind of like we're initializing it. We're not going to use the 0, 0. We're going to use this.
Well, it's allowing us to eventually find the what's called the delta, or like the distance traveled.
Okay.
So the distance traveled would be from where, like So the like you said, the subscribing or the initial part, when we set it with the chords, that was to give it the initial values, but that's sort of just the initial. Like if you were to drag and leave it somewhere, then the next time you clicked and dragged to move it, you would want it to start at its new spot. So you kind of want to look for those right at that handle down. So next thing we want to do is get those deltas and everything on the mouse move, which is really the most fun part.
Okay, so we've got our mouse move.
So we can, because once we get mouse move, we can start to even see stuff happen in the DOM in a second. So we can create two values, one of which is dx and dy, standing for delta x and delta y. And these are going to be equal to, dx is equal to, once again, the event, which we'll need.
Whoa. Event?
Yep. And this will be event dot client x once more. So we're getting essentially the amount moved minus the x value.
Ah, right.
And then same
So
with y.
now if I click this and I move it 100 pixels, we don't want to know that it moved 100 pixels. We want to know that it's now positioned at, x. If it was x 100 before, it's now at x 200.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So same thing with y.
Oops, minus y. Okay, so dx,
And
dy.
then- And then now, once again, we'll want to update the x and y's because of how this it's kind of interesting how this works. So we'll want to say x is equal to event.clientx, or
Event.clientx.
yeah. It's like the new point at which it's registering it. Same with the client y. And then now we get to do the spring update part, which is fun. So we can do chords dot update. And this gives us we'll want this to be essentially a callback function.
Callback function, okay.
And the first property is essentially going to be the current value of it. So it could be like, I usually use chords for this, but you could just, you could have it be current.
Yeah, I think because I named it wrong. So, so we'll get current.
No, it's all good. And we're going to return from here an object.
And I assume we want X and Y, right?
You bet.
Okay, so it would be, let's see if I can reason through this. So our current is going to be wherever we started, right? So at the beginning, it would be, 0. And then we want to figure out where it's moved to, so we need to add the delta.
Yeah.
So we're going to say current.x plus dx.
Hell yeah. Oh, H, yeah.
And the y.
You bet.
Okay, right? And so now if we save this, then I should be able to click and drag it around.
Not quite.
No, because we haven't actually attached the drag to anything.
We haven't attached the drag to anything, and two, we haven't attached those properties to anything either. So a good one would be, so let's go all the way up top to where we had our coordinates defined. And we can do, so just below that, we can do something called a subscribe.
Okay.
So we could do chords.subscribe, which means that every single time there's a change happening, this function will run, which once again will give us the current coordinate values as a callback.
Okay.
So now, since again, this is just a JavaScript node, or a DOM node, right? We can do the straight up JavaScript style of this and say node.style.transform, right? We're accessing the CSS property itself. And that's going to be equal to, you can do backticks. Oh yeah, already on it. Translate 3D.
So current X pixels.
Yep.
Current Y pixels, and we'll do 0 for the Z.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. So now I think we should be able to see this in action if we did everything right by adding this to the component. And this is where it gets fun, because we just head to that box, like any DOM item you want, whether it's the box or button, and you can just do use : drag. whatever the name of the function is.
What? Okay.
So, yeah. In our course, we make this dragging plugin.
Oh
and
my God.
We show you that you can add it on the. Now, you want to do something even cool here? Because I'll show you how cool this can get. It's very okay. So let's step it up, and on the mouse up, you can remove the event handlers.
Holy buckets. Did that just work?
On the mouse up, we can window.remove event listener.
Yeah, and you'll want to remove just the mouse move and mouse up.
Mouse up, and mouse move. Okay. So now it's basically like a click and drag, right? So when I do this, I stop. Now it's stuck.
And how would you, if you wanted to have it go back to its origin, what would you do?
I would set the node style transform to 0, 0.
Nope. Use the
nope.
We want to use our spring-based animation interpolation. So we get to do the chords.update.
Oh, so I can just chords update, and I'm gonna get, I don't need this anymore, so I can just return x0, y0.
Yeah, but you'll want to wrap those brackets in a parens.
Oh, right. Yeah. Actually make
Classic.
it legible JavaScript. Okay.
And also, you'll probably want to do x and y is equal to
Boop.
0 as well as the swing.
Boop. Okay. You are correct. That is definitely what I want to do. So let's return that. But what we will also do is just set x0, y0. Are you going to clean that up for me? You're not. All right.
Extra paren. Yeah.
There we go. All right. Now it's cleaned up. Okay. So now it has.
Zip.
Oops.
And here's something fun. Go back to your HTML and head to that animation in Svelte H1 and just say use drag on that baby.
Oh wow, that is what a nice API for this, right? And like we're doing a lot. So to look at this is, especially if you're not super comfortable with writing a lot of JavaScript, we are doing a lot. But what I like about it is that everything we're doing has there's like a clear logical path through this. We start with the node that we want to change. We have an X and a Y, which is how far it's going to move from where it is now. We initialize it at 0, which is it's not moved. We listen, and anytime that the coordinates change, we update it. We listen for a click or a mouse down, like click and hold. Update where it is, and then when we release, we remove our listeners and reset the coordinates back to 0. So it's all very like it makes sense to me. It makes it like logically tracks in my head. And then these deltas, this is math. So like if this isn't the sort of place where your head lives, this might look a little head bendy. But really what we're looking at is like, if we start here and this is 0, 0, and I drag over to here, we just moved it over about 150 pixels, right? So we want to figure out that if this is 300 pixels from the left side of the screen, this is not, we don't want to set it to 150. We want to set it to 300 plus 150. So we're trying to figure out what moved, where did it change? And I think that's really, really cool, right? Like this is really nice. I think this is a very, very approachable way to doing this sort of animation.
And if you think about it, it could be a lot more simple, but because we want to use the spring-based animations, like that whole subscribe and update function stuff doesn't almost even need to be there. But that spring stuff makes it so much nicer to use. That like you kind of want that, right?
Yeah.
How would you feel about adding a custom event to this thing in what?
I would feel so good about it.
Okay, let's go to that handle mouse move or handle mouse up. On the mouse up, we want to fire an event that says we've stopped dragging this thing.
Okay.
And so to do that, you can just, since again, this is just straight up, like one thing I really like about these actions is they've gotten me better at JavaScript. We can do a node.dispatch event. I don't know. Have you used dispatch event before?
I have, but I can't tell you why.
Yeah. So I had never used this before getting into Svelte animations, where we actually create our own custom event. So by saying node dispatch event, we can, as the first parameter, say a new custom, capital C custom event, and then that's a function. The first parameter is the name of the event. So you could just call it like drag stop or anything you wanted.
Okay.
And comma. And then the second parameter is going to need a property called detail. So, I'm sorry, it's going to be an object. I should say that. Detail. And detail is going to be an object. And now this could have any property you could possibly want. Let's say when you dragged and stopped this thing, you wanted to get the current X and current Y value, of which you could just say X and Y here. Although you'd have to move this up to before you, or no,
reset.
You have this. Oh, I guess you wouldn't, because you didn't. Oh, sorry. That X and Y that's in your chords, that should not be in the chords update. That should be in just the mouse up function.
Oh, I gotcha. So we'll just move it down here.
Yeah, perfect. And if you turn, in that detail, you could literally put in anything you wanted in here, like anything you could possibly dream of. But it's just the information that you would want on return of that event. Cool.
And so like examples for why you would actually use this is like if we wanted to do something where, say, when we drag this, when we let go, we wanted to stick a new box there that was kind of like ghosted. So you could sort of keep a track of where you would drag to or something.
Yeah,
this would let us
really easily.
Yeah. All right.
You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Head on into your HTML. I think the rest might be HTML stuff. Well, just about. So let's do it on that box.
Okay.
And then we can say, just like any other JavaScript event that we do in Svelte, you say on colon.
Just going to break this up so we can still read it on screen.
Totally. So use drag on colon.
I think we called it drag stop.
Yeah. And then this is just going to be a function. So you could have this be inline here if you want, or you could have it external, whatever you want. And yeah, classic.
What just happened? What was that?
Code.
VS Code?
I know. It does that to me too.
Okay. And so our event here, now this part I don't remember. Can I just get like event.details?
Yeah. Detail.
Detail. Oh, did it need to be detail up here too?
Yeah. Did you do details?
I think I did. Oh no, you did not steer me wrong, and I actually listened. So here we go. So now, whenever we do a drag, what we should see is there it is. There's our X and Y.
Only on let go. Yeah. And so let's say, let's do in that JavaScript, let's say if event.detail.x is greater than 300, then we'll say is visible is equal to false. Or is active. Sorry, is active.
Okay.
So essentially setting the state of that box to now be hidden.
Okay, so if we drag this further than 3, so we'll start here, nothing changes. Oh, there it goes. I dragged it too far.
So I mean, if you think about it, if you only animate the X property of this, right? You only animate it left and right rather than up and down, then you would effectively build the Tinder interface, right?
Oh yeah.
The whole swipe card thing.
And
so
we would just so you would
to do those actions. Yeah.
We would just end up adding, instead of, so right now what we're doing is we're having it like disappear like that. We would just add a different animation that would throw it to the right or to the left. That's pretty powerful stuff. I also love that we're able to kind of reset here. So if we throw it off, and I did not expect that to work, which logically it makes sense now that I'm seeing it happen and knowing that we're using that is active. But the fact that, we were able to build this kind of complex state where different actions are causing different things to change, we're moving this around, and then it gets hidden, and then I just have a button that's like, okay, you can reset that. It's beautiful. And this is really well done.
Pulling it in and out of the DOM too. I mean, that's like the coolest part.
Oh, that's a good point. Let's look at the DOM. So if we pop this open a little wider so we can actually see what's going on, and we look at our body, we've got our H1, our button, and our div. That is really slick. And so the amount of script that we're actually loading, let's take a look at how much we're actually loading here.
And this is
this is a dev bundle.
It's a dev bundle, but still, in prod, it's like nothing.
So 183 kilobytes for a dev bundle, which I think is less JavaScript than I transfer for my production, tuned JavaScript React app.
and so currently the Svelte team is working on moving Svelte and their full stack solution for Svelte over to Snowpack using something called Svelte Kit.
Cool.
Can you imagine this stuff getting smaller and faster? To me, I'm just it's already small and fast. This is gonna be great. It's just gonna keep getting smaller and faster.
That's really, really nice. And as we can see, I just dragged that out. It's gone, and it disappeared from the DOM entirely. It's not hidden. It's not set to opacity 0 or something. It's literally missing from the DOM, which is really nice. And then when I hit the button, it comes back. Here we are. We're back in, and it does its transition, and now we're good.
And by all means, there are certain use cases where CSS transitions are more appropriate, or removal is more appropriate. And in all that normal CSS class-based transition stuff works just as well in Svelte. So
This is really slick stuff. I feel like I can see so much potential for what is possible without having to learn a bunch of external libraries. I think the thing that's exciting about this to me is I know that no matter what you're using, you can do animations like this. What I think is really exciting about this approach in Svelte is that we have not used a single third-party dependency yet. We have only used built-in Svelte stuff. And when we use this built-in Svelte stuff, it allows us to, we can write our own custom transitions, we can write our own custom actions, and this is powerful stuff that we can just, immediately put together a drag and drop with this nice effect. That is really cool that works.
And if you wanted to make it more complex, any of your actions can take parameter values as well. So you could always pass in an object full of parameters. Then that action function, the second parameter or the second argument in that action function is the parameters.
Mm-hmm.
So in my course, one of the things we do is when we build this drag and drop thing, we say, what do we have? We have the two params are basically is Y active or is X active. And by default, they both are, but you could have only drag on the X, only drag on the Y, just by simply adding a single parameter to it.
And so I'm just playing here. So I'm saying if we add a parameter for color, then we'll be able to send out that color with the custom dispatch event. And so then down here, if we use drag, we can give it a color of, let's go purple. And once it's done, we could say event target, probably.
I think so. Event target
style color equals color.
Oh yeah.
And so what should happen now is if I drag this, it should turn purple. Nope, I broke it. I think it might be because of the event target, because I don't know what do I need to pass it a node or something? Color is not defined. I defined you.
Style. Oh, it's style.color. Actually don't know about this.
Not read property color of undefined. I'm doing something wrong. Background.
Somebody's saying event.detail. So does this event return the node itself? You could have this return the node itself.
Oh yeah, just throw the node right into it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That seems fine. So we'll get the, instead of event.target.
Because this is a custom. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what we can do is we'll do event.detail.node.
I think so. I haven't done this before. This is interesting.
Not read color property of undefined. What are... I'm giving you.
Oh, can read property color of undefined.
Oh, I know why. It's because we're not providing a default. So let's go back up to our drag, and because this might be undefined, we need to also default that.
Oh yeah, man. Yes, perfect.
Okay, so now what should happen? Oh, this is what I get for trying to be clever. Color is not defined. Where? Color is not defined on
node.
Did I not destructure this out properly?
I don't know. It's hard for me to tell from here, but
oh, it's just me being bad at stuff. Event, detail, color. This one's gonna work. Get ready. Look at it go.
Yes.
And then I think if I I have to reload, but this is slick, right? So you can see that with a little bit of fumbling, I haven't opened the docs once. We've never tried this before. We were just able to figure out how to like mess with that so that when you activate the box, basically by dragging it, you get a color change.
And you know what? You could even, if you didn't want to do that whole node passing business, you could even have that node color change happen in the action, the drag action as well on the mouse up. And the coolest thing about any of that as well is that the spring motion, the motion spring thing that comes with Svelte doesn't just work on, straight up numbers. I think you can interpolate between colors as well. I have not used, but I think you can. Let me see. So the spring, I'm pretty sure you can transition between colors as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So I know you can with the tweened version of it, but yeah. So that would give you the ability to add that physics-based tween to the, like if you were to put the color in,
like in my coordinates or something.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this would mess up the drag coordinates thing.
Yeah, you know what? Let's not worry about it. Because what I'm actually more curious about, I'm actually really curious to see what happens when we deploy this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this decision out. So we will not do the color anymore, and I'm just going to leave the color off so that we don't have to deal with that. And I'm going to drop it out of our custom event as well. So we don't need those anymore. We're not using them. And I'm going to drop out where's my drag? Let's just get rid of all that. Okay, so that was fun, but that's not what we're interested in. What I'm interested in is what happens when we build this thing. And so build is just a command like this. So let's pull up here. I'm going to run npm run build. Okay, and now I want to serve this, and I just want to see pm run start. I want to see how small the bundle is. So let's reload, and I'm going to go to my network tab. I think this is the updated version here. 14 kilobytes of JavaScript. That is, or wait, no, 14 kilobytes total. So let's look at the JavaScript.
For getting all that drag functionality.
9.1 kilobytes of JavaScript. So the rest of that is HTML, CSS, the actual document itself. But that is really slick. Let me make this a little bit bigger so we can see. 9.1 kilobytes of JavaScript. That is really, really nice. So I'm gonna, and while we're here, let's get this thing pushed live. While I'm doing that, do you want to talk a little bit about what more someone would learn if for example, I know you just did a course on this, right? So what else would somebody learn if they took this course?
So there's a lot of neat stuff. There's like we mentioned briefly at the beginning, there's flip animations. There's this thing called crossfade, which is really kind of tricky because the docs aren't great on it. And crossfade allows you to essentially take a item that's in one container and an item that's in let's say you have two containers. An item's in a container. let's say you want to move a jelly bean from one jar to the other. Well, it's going to allow you to animate, like basically what you do in the HTML is you say jelly bean, go another jar. And then what Crossfade does is it allows that animation to be automatic between those two locations. So you don't actually physically have to tell the jelly bean, all right, translate 800 pixels this way. It's just say, here's the end state in the DOM. Here's the beginning state in the DOM, and now fade between the two. And then my man Mark's got a nice little REPL in the chat there. And
pull that up.
So you'll get those kind of things. You'll get crossfade. I also talk a little bit about staggering animations, which are kind of shockingly easy.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. We go a little bit more in depth into the actions bit, creating that drag plugin. We talk a little bit more about the custom animations, and there's a whole bunch of like little things here and there with subscribing to events. So like the course is really built on the idea of practical animations. So we built this really, really nice looking modal. And then the modal functions exactly like how you'd want, right? It does a neat little, like sort of like all the animations in macOS Big Sur, where it just like kind of fades up and in, fades up and down, fades up and in. You know, when you close and open it, gives you several like click points to close it, whatever. We build a toast app, like a little like toaster, like a toast message thing where you can bring in alerts. And it's just so simple because we talk a little bit about subscribing to values. So in this, we did a little bit of that where we subscribed to the, what do we subscribe to? We subscribe to the values for the spring animations. In the course, we get into like actually subscribing to do more practical things. Like, for instance, the toast message should close itself after 3 seconds. Oh, nice. So how do we listen for that animation to have happened or those values to have changed to then trigger that listen to then close the message or whatever? So it's really focused on really hyper practical animations, stuff that you're going to use in everyday sites. I think we even do some like scroll based animations and stuff. So it's very, very practical, and you'll get a lot of cool stuff out of it. And by the end of it, you'll feel confident animating pretty much anything in and out in Svelte.
So we've got animating Svelte. This is the tutorial, what you can learn. Yeah, I mean, it's marked down right now too, so that's exciting.
Oh yeah, I have the Black Friday sale on for like, I mean, it's not advertised as being on, but I have some things on discount from Black Friday still. So it'll be on for maybe another week or so until I feel like turning it off.
Get that before Scott gets around to cleaning up his discounts.
Yeah, right, exactly. When you have like 50 some tutorial series and you have to do that manually, it's like, oh, I guess I'll take everything off discount.
But yeah, so check this out, y'all. I was able to this is live. This is up on Netlify now. I was able to deploy this. It's working. If we go off to the right, it disappears. We're able to bring it back. And this whole thing runs on like nothing. This is 13 kilobytes of JavaScript for what I would consider to be a pretty complex set of animations. Like a button controlling it, mouse events controlling it, and the kind of the interleaving of that as well, where when we drag it off to the side, we can reactivate it with that button. All those things just working is very cool, I think. I think we also,
you mentioned like no JavaScript. I mean,
yeah.
And even if like, not to throw shade on Framer Motion, because that's the first thing I would do in React would be to install Framer Motion and throw some drag properties on there, right? And this is essentially the same thing that you would get from there, but again, no shade on Framer Motion. It's my favorite React animation tool. That's still a huge bundle of code to be adding. It's probably more than this entire site, just in one plugin alone. So
it's and this is the trouble, right? Is like you can do anything, but you'll end up, whether or not you wanted to, adding a whole lot of additional JavaScript. And this is sort of the dilemma of the creator right now. Is you want to do this powerful stuff, and you can do that powerful stuff, but you might end up shipping 500 kilobytes of JavaScript, and that's fun for me to build and not fun for someone to load on their phone on a slow connection.
500 kilobytes seems reasonable when you have sites that are shipping like, several
I know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so
It's the world. It's the world we're living in. It's cool. We're getting server components in React. So
yeah, I think, that to me is what I think is exciting. Like that's something that I think Svelte is sort of leading the charge in that direction, where it's the idea that your JavaScript framework is for building, not for serving. And I think that it's exciting to see that you get to write JavaScript to get these effects, and then most of it disappears and you're just left with browser native things. I think that React server components are a move in that direction. We're going to see that you write React, and when we can, hopefully that means that most of it disappears and you're only shipping React when you need interaction, when you need that interactivity, which should lead to a similar kind of outcome where we see a lot less JavaScript being shipped to do these sorts of interactions. And I think Vue is kind of on the same path. A lot of the frameworks are going that way. I know that like Chris Viscardi's working on Toast. That's another one that's kind of trying to think along these lines. How do we use built-in things, ES modules, actual, DOM APIs instead of custom JavaScript APIs, so that we as developers get these good experiences of building without shifting that onto our users of having to download a bunch of JavaScript. But yeah, this is exciting stuff. I feel like we're moving towards something really exciting in the web space right now with the accessibility of this. It feels like, we're getting unlocked as front-end developers to do stuff like this with animations. And we've also got stuff coming on the back end, like things like Hasura that let us get data so fast. Yeah. We're kind of coming to the point where like a front-end developer really can become a one-person army. You can roll forward and build really complex experiences with great animation, a solid data backend. You've got serverless functions to handle dynamic stuff. You can compile most of it away using something like Svelte. I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah. I mean, I was able to build level up tutorials and design it by myself. And like that
Awesome.
should tell you, because I'm not a backend developer. I mean, I wrote the API in the backend for this and whatever, but like that's not my specialty. My specialty is CSS and animation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like if somebody like me can create something like this full featured from scratch, then like, man, I'm that was actually the big thing for me with React. It was like, it allows us to create the types of things that our clients always asked us to do. And we're always like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess I can build, a chat app for you that, Facebook had 500 engineers work on or something. But sure, I'll take it on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like I talk about this for days, but unfortunately we are out of time. So let me do a quick shout out to the sponsors. We've had White Coat Captioning. Thank you, Jordan, for doing live captioning today. That's White Coat Captioning is the company that does it. Jordan is our captioner today. That is made possible by our sponsors, Netlify, Hasura, Fauna, and Auth0, all of whom are kicking in a little extra cash to make that possible, because I definitely couldn't afford it on my own. So thank you. Scott, where should people go if they want to follow up more with you? I'm going to throw your Twitter, and we've already thrown the Level Up Tut site. Is there anywhere else that you want them to go?
Head on over to syntax.fm, which is not something we've mentioned yet. It's our podcast that I do with Wes Boss. We do two episodes weekly, and we are ready for 2021. We have just a crazy amount planned for episodes next year. So very excited. And we've been kicking on that for a couple of years now, and it's going really well. So that's those are the places to find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out to do this. I know you got a lot of videos to get edited before you can take your holiday break. For all of you watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoy your holiday break, and make sure you check out the schedule, because we've got a lot of really fun stuff. Oh, we got a Stampede to end the year. Excellent timing. Let's go look at the schedule while we're watching that Stampede. We have, when we come back in January, Orta is coming to teach us TypeScript. We've got Emma coming back, and we're going to continue talking crap to each other about tacos. Ali Spittle is going to teach us React. Scott Moss is going to teach us Next.js. Ben is coming back. We're going to learn Vue's composition API. Ooh, cool. It is going to be, and then we got Sarah's going to come and do this one's going to be a little of a different format. Mark your calendars for this one, especially if you're looking for a job, because Sarah's going to come and we're going to do like a Q&A about how she's the VP of developer experience at Netlify. How is she hiring people, and how can you as a developer make yourself stand out to get hired? We've got so much stuff coming. You keep your eye on the schedule. It just gets better and better. I'm always blown away by the people who are willing to come and teach us. You can add this to your calendar. We've got a Google Calendar, which is, oh boy, what is it? It's lwj.dev/calendar, I think. Let's find out. Nope, that's not it. I don't know. We'll find it later. If one of the mods remembers, that would be super useful. But on that note, we're out of time. Scott, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Y'all stay tuned. We're going to go find somebody to raid. We will see you next year.
Later.